So, my main aim with this video is to educate the viewer about the different options that you have in fixed income.
Right.
FDs are not the only thing, right?
Right.
There are FDs, there are liquid funds, there are corporate bonds, there are arbitrage funds.
Right.
So I want to understand that if I have, say, some money lying, right? Whether it is a bonus that I got, an increment that I got, and I want to invest it in a fixed income product.
Right.
What are the different fixed income products I can look at, and in terms of returns, in terms of risk profile, tax efficiency? So we'll start taking them one by one.
Sure. So I'll tell you the first product that you should definitely think is fixed deposit, not because we are doing it fixed deposit, but that's the emergency fund. That's the fund that at any point in time you withdraw, you'll get the money next second. You don't have to question that. That's the safest money. And that is still giving you certain returns, right? And we'll come to why inflation beating is not the great point to think about that. But that's the emergency fund that you should have. It's generally 3 to 6 months of salary in any difficult time. But I feel that that is first thing that you should keep it. And that should not be your part of growing wealth. So that's one part of fixed income.
But there are two questions here, right? You spoke about inflation. I feel even taxation is a huge thing because once you cut tax and then you adjust for inflation, the returns on fixed deposit are barely anything.
Yeah. So I think taxation is a problem, and taxation has become a problem with the debt mutual fund as well. And how we'll solve that is something that we'll talk. But when you think of an emergency fund, you think of that safety net. I think you should not worry about taxation. Yes, just try to maximize the return on your fixed deposit so that it's not just lying at a 5%, 4% kind of fixed deposit. And inflation as well. Honestly, Sonia, inflation we talk about, it's a 5% inflation, 6% inflation, and it's not beating inflation. But for people like us or people who are your audience, inflation is much higher. Look at the rate every year, the iPhone rate increasing, right? That's not 5%. Look at the prices in the restaurant, look at the prices of petrol. That's not 5%. So anyways, our inflation is much higher. Both, if you take that logic, multiple products, investment products will not be able to beat your inflation that you wanted. So think of fixed deposit as a safety net. It's the it's the basic principle that you should follow, that have some money in fixed deposit, keep it, forget it. You just use it when you want it.
So it's not an inflation beating investment. You should understand that at the start.
Yes, it's an emergency fund. It's the fund that you will use when you want it, and you know that this is the amount that you'll get. You are not worried about, you are not having multiple threads in your head saying ki wo paisa positive hoga ya negative hoga. That's the money that you want, right? And everybody has gone through, and I've seen, unfortunately, so many examples during COVID time by myself as well, that there's no money to take out from, and that's when you'll rely upon maybe your parents' fixed deposit or your fixed deposit. So you should definitely have that.
Correct. So
that is one part. Then second is the corporate bond, right? So corporate bond is one level above the fixed deposit, where the returns of a decently A-rated bonds is now somewhere around 11.5%, right? This is today's condition. This was 12.5 couple of quarters before, but now with the repo rates down, 11.5 yield to maturity is what you can expect from a decent A-rated bond. If you go for a AAA rated bonds like, let's say, Tata Capital and all of that, you will get it around 8 to 9%, slightly higher than the fixed deposit. But unfortunately, even for bonds, it's fully taxed, right? So that's the next ladder, that you go up to 11 or a 12% corporate bond. I would sincerely avoid a BBB minus or a below rated bonds to do that, unless you understand the risk completely or the tenure is short. And in my head, and that's not the advice to anybody who is listening to this, is a risk of a AAA rated bond for 3 years is as low as a risk for a BBB rated bond for 6 months. Because what is risk? Credit risk is that what are the chances of this bond defaulting? The chances of a AAA rated bond defaulting, let's say Tata Capital, is very low over the 3 years. But similarly, our chances of a good BBB rated bond, and I'm not saying all, good BBB rated bond also defaulting in just 6 months is also low, right? Because some of those signs will start coming up, the credit rating will go down, all of those things would happen, right? So that's also one smart investing that you should do, that if I'm getting a good BBB rated bond for a 6-7 months, which is a 13%, and a AAA rated bond, which is after 3 years, which is at a 9%, I would have a good mix of this 13% and 9% both, because it's a similar risk, is how I see the bond investment.
So, which are the best AAA rated bonds currently, corporate bonds in the market currently, which give you around 10-11% returns?
There is no AAA which will give you
No,
10-11%. Because the reason they are AAA rated is their cost of capital has to be low. So everybody will be around 7-8%.
Okay, so let me rephrase that. Which are the best AAA rated corporate bonds which will give you 7-8% returns? Which are the top ones you would recommend?
So we have Tata Capital is something that gives you 8%, 7.5% to 8%. And a very interesting part is the bonds have different, like you have a monthly, quarterly payouts as well. For anybody who's looking for a regular income from that, I think that makes a lot of sense for those bonds, that the capital principal is safe and you keep getting the interest regularly. But people like us should do bond laddering as well, that 6 months in a 13-14%. Then 1.5 2-year bond which are coming at a 12%, you put some there, and the 3-year which is AAA rated that comes at a 8-9%. So your blended take rate is slightly above 10%, but it's safe.
इतना time किसके पास है तो bond laddering करने के लिए?
हाँ, I'm just
But
saying
that's where there are guys like you sitting.
हाँ, that's where we are. Plus,
I think this is the best part of fixed income is you just start to do it once.
Sonia,
Okay.
you don't have to just keep looking at your, oh, where is the stock? क्या मैंने price पे hit किया था, क्या किया, नहीं किया. I think if you plan it once and do the investment, then you don't have to look at it. Like a lot of people talk about FD laddering, and what they do is, if you have, let's say, 6 lakhs, I'm just taking one example, is they put 2 lakh in 1 year FD, they put 2 lakh in a 2 year FD, they put 3 lakh in a 3 year FD. Generally, you will see that the 3 year FD rates are the highest because of the ALM matches of the banks. And then when the 1 year FD is matured, you get that money and put it in a 3 year FD. When the second year FD gets matured, you withdraw that money and you put it in another 3 year FD. Then what you have after that is every year you are getting some liquidity, and all your FDs are locked in at the best interest rate, because generally 3 years is the best interest rate with every year liquidity. But people do that planning. It's just that people don't go out and talk about these things, because it's not a sexy thing to talk about
Fixed income investing. Yeah,
Yes.
it's kind of like, fixed income investing is always associated with your parents and your grandparents' generation. It's very cool to invest in stocks and equities or in cryptocurrencies, nowadays.
Yeah.
But I completely take your point that asset allocation and portfolio allocation is very important, because then when there's a rainy day and you need that easy access of money, and if there's a bear market, then, all hell
But you will be
breaks
surprised,
loose.
Sonia, that my median age of customers, and we have a 4,000 crore book on fixed deposit, my median age of customer is 28. And 52% of my customers belong to tier 2 and tier 3 city. So it's not that a fixed deposit looks like a senior citizen kind of product. I have only 8% of my users who are senior citizens, and that too because of people like you and me who are going to our parents and saying, download stable money and do this. So it is still, it's still not so old school. It's still that 28, 29 kind of, it's not 21, 22 for sure. But yeah, that's there. That's the whole point, right? People just don't go and talk about it.